of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I see you
I gotta get rid of the rings. Honor will have. Okay, Des Moines County Board of Supervisors, Tuesday, March 26th, 2024. Are there any changes to the tentative agenda?
I have
We have an agenda. Meet with department heads, elected officials. Sarah Doty, Des Moines County Auditor.
Good morning. House File 718 mailing went out last week, so if anyone calls, please forward them to my office. There was a section that the system missed, so District 1 did not receive a letter, so my office is frantically working on getting that out this morning. So, other than that, we're business as usual.
Were they tickled to sell that many envelopes?
Yeah, he said that was the biggest sale he's ever had. So he was happy about that, but.
That's good.
Brian was stuffing on the books.
Yes.
Oh, everybody was
Brian,
stuffing
thank you.
envelopes.
That's the bottom of the barrel right there.
So if anyone has free time today.
That's the first time I've seen Brian doing it.
Oh, no, it
There's
took him
about
half an hour to
9,000.
try to
Try to stay out of public view for that kind of stuff.
Colin Gerst, IT.
Just keep busy like always, nothing really new to report.
Thanks, Colin. Sheriff Kevin Glendenny.
Good morning. Plenty going on, not much news for the board today, though. Our jail is at 80 adults.
80?
80.
80.
And 8 were out of county, plus 1 juvenile. So numbers have softened in that area. Hopefully we'll see that keep going that way.
No doubt. Good, good. Thank you, Sheriff.
Yep.
Rodney Buisner, Maintenance Director.
Good morning, got a couple things. We listed a item for sale on govdeals.com. It's a 1990 Suburban. It's the Suburban that the juveniles were using the last several years to, when they had community service during the summer. They would use it during the summer, we'd store during the winter, so they no longer use that. It was actually previously the sheriff's, so just something that's not getting used, and we had it sitting there, so we finally got it listed. So if anybody's interested in that, is on govdeals.com. Hoping to get the link posted to the county website today. It'll be on, it started yesterday morning, it'll be on there for 10 days, so people's got plenty of time to get signed up and bid on that if they would like. Also, Shannon asked me, she's in some training this morning, to remind everybody the statewide tornado drill is tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So they will sound the alarms off. Said it will be fairly short, they'll sound the alarms off, once let it go through a cycle, hit a second cycle, and then it'll be pretty much done. So it won't last too long, but just to remind all the county buildings and employees to take a look and run through their tornado drill when that goes off tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Also, like to ask for for you guys, if we could close the courthouse down on April 5th at 2 o'clock to do our active threat training. I haven't talked to you guys before about that. So we'll get you guys' blessing to close the courthouse down for some training on that day. Other than that, I have an agenda item.
Either of you gentlemen have a problem with that day?
I don't have a problem at all. I think it's a good deal, Rodney.
What day of the week is that?
That's
Friday.
Friday,
Friday.
Friday afternoon.
April
Good choice of days.
5th, Friday at 2 p.m.
The next day at almost that same time, there's a total eclipse of the sun. And people will be going outside to look at
How's
it.
it called a week?
That's on the 8th.
It's gonna be cloudy and
I thought it was the 8th. I thought it was the 8th too, but I guess maybe.
We generally have it on different days. We're trying to work around the court schedule when they don't have like a jury trial or something like that going on. So it ended up being on a Friday this time, so.
You're right, Tom.
But thank you.
at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, we're gonna shut it down, so we'll have to close the courthouse down and, you know, let customers finish up whatever they got going on and do a sweep of the building and then go through our training. So, thank you guys, appreciate the support.
Thank you. Jared Lasker, land use.
Morning, land use, we're just keeping busy as usual. We have a couple of minor subdivisions out for review, one new one just this past week. And then, we had a zoning commission meeting, yesterday evening, for a subdivision that will, a preliminary plat that we expect to have on the agenda for next week. Apart from that, I don't have anything to report.
Thank you, Jared. Now in Longwood, it's your time of year. Moines
Yes,
County
it is.
Treasurer.
Good morning, and we are busy. The post office box was plumb full yesterday, so, just a reminder that the 31st falls on Sunday, so Monday, April 1st is the last day to pay without penalty. 8 AM, April 2nd, penalty will start to accrue, so,
What is the penalty?
1.5% interest.
1.5%.
And on all the news releases, I've, mentioned about the front doors and using the back exit and everything, so hopefully,
I did make a
That's
heading on the
future.
website too yesterday.
thank you, yes, thank you. It's busy,
Thank you.
that's it.
Ken Hyman, Mental Health Agency of Southeast Iowa, for now.
Yeah, that's right. Last Wednesday, we had our region monthly meeting, and we went over our last annual service and budget plan. We talked about the behavioral health system bill, that 80-page bill, and now there's something in appropriations with a 37-page amendment to that bill. CEO Collaborative will be reviewing that amendment, creating notes on the amendment, and bring it back to the region, so I expect next month we'll hear more about what all's in that amendment. I know Ryan did send a link to a video too about the bill, so I'm gonna watch that later today. This is Mahassee's, the region of Mahassee's last year of contracting with providers, and so that's starting. Next week we'll start having contract meetings with providers. It's just kind of a confusing time. This Katie Fisher's last day will be Thursday this week. She's over the claims, she's from Monroe County, but she's over the claims. So duties are gonna have to get redistributed, and everybody's just gonna be kicking in as we finish this. I mean, I'll be here till the end of the year, but throughout, as we finish out the region, it's just getting a little bit hectic. The SEAL website that we always used, well, now that we're the Mahassee region, there was a plan to make a Mahassee website. So the SEAL website's down right now. The Mahassee website is kind of like maybe halfway up, but it doesn't have all the forms and everything that the SEAL website had on it. So we're kind of in a state of flux right now, as we're right in the process of switching region names, but also the big question of, what's sustainable, what do we focus our efforts on? I'll just tell you, I'm focusing my efforts on trying to help people. That's the main part of my job, is helping people with mental health needs and disabilities, and that's what I'm gonna keep focusing on until I leave. But there's just a lot of transition going on, so we'll do the best we can.
Thanks, Ken. Now we step into the Moines County Recorder.
Good morning, just business as usual, nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Schaefer, Des Moines County Attorney.
Good morning. We're busy, which we're always busy, so I guess that's just par for the course. We do have a personnel action. Rob Bixler, our part-time investigator, has decided to officially completely retire. His last day was last week after 42 years in law enforcement, between state, DCI, and our office. He's decided he needs a rest. And so we wanna thank him for everything he's done for our office, but also for the area. He has been in law enforcement for a very, very long time. And so we congratulate him on his full retirement now. He's actually going to stop working completely. And wish him well in that. We have actually been able to conditionally fill our assistant county attorney position. We decided to think a little outside the box, and rather than hiring an already licensed attorney, well, because we can't, because none of them are applying, we decided to venture into a third-year law student, and so we have extended a conditional offer to a third year at the University of Iowa, who's particularly interested in working in more rural part of the state, not interested in one of the metro areas, which was fabulous for us, because that's where we seem to lose everybody to. But obviously her hire will be conditional on graduating, which I don't anticipate being a problem, and then passing the bar, which she will take in July. And our plan is to hire her as a clerk, just a law clerk, for that first couple months after she's taken the bar until she gets licensed, and then we'll transition her into the full-time assistant county attorney position. We just decided that we're gonna have to do things differently than we've done them in the past, and she's actually fabulous. Her name is Cassie. I met her at.
Cassie or Kathy?
Cassandra, Cassie Kilby. Met her at the Public Service Expo at the University of Iowa College of Law a few months ago. She was friends with last year's summer legal intern, and he introduced us. And I think she's gonna be a fabulous fit, and very, very anxious for her to join us. And then for the attorneys that are here, we see light at the end of the tunnel now, so we know we just have to get through the next few months, and we think this is actually gonna be a good plan, because we can also use that 2 months to have her be doing things, but also getting her trained. So unlike hiring somebody where you kinda have to go through the introducing them to everybody, she'll already be ready to go when she gets, when her number's not up. For those of you who don't know, when you pass the bar, you get a number, you're assigned a number, and what they do is they put up the numbers of the people who didn't pass. And so, because Iowa has one of the highest pass rates in the country. Yeah, it's easier out of the 400 that take it to put the ones that did not pass. And so assuming her number does not come up, then she'll just be ready to go as soon as she's sworn in at the end of September. So we're very, very excited.
Please give the board's thanks to Rob Bixler. That's a long time in law enforcement.
Will do. So yeah, we're also looking for a part-time investigator, if anybody knows anybody who might be interested.
Bix doesn't golf either, does he?
Pardon?
I say Bix doesn't golf either, I don't think. So-
No, I think he's got kids, his daughter lives in, I believe, Arizona, and he's got some grandkids. I think he's just ready. I think he just decided it was time. There's too much other stuff going on. And he was just ready to relax a little bit.
Great guy, I've known him for a long time.
Thanks, Lisa. Brian Carter, Moine County Engineer.
Good morning. Some update stuff. They're still working in the bottoms on that little bridge on the dead end road. Maybe a chance they'll wrap up their work by the end of the week, so then it'll sit there until our crew frees up, so it'll be a little while on that one.
Thank you for the video. That was great.
Yeah, I'll just jump to that. Bridgeport Bridge, the old bridge is no longer dropped and in the river anymore. The contractor got it all out, and there's a little bit of site work yet to do when we drive back out, I think. More on the Lee County side, although there's a little bit of stuff on the north, but a little bit of site work. But in general, the bridge is no longer in the river and no longer a safety issue like it was. So so that's a good one to get to that point. Still rocking. I would mention that we do currently have our dust control program scheduled for the end of April. So when we get closer to that, I'll remind you of that. But they're gonna try to bring all their trucks in and try to do the whole thing in 2 days. That's earlier than normal, but, the main supplier of calcium chloride in the Chicago area decided to shut down in the middle of May for a couple weeks for just random maintenance, which is terrible timing for that, so. Anyway, since we got our rocking done early, we'll get our dust control done early, and, so I think that'll be a good thing. And then I would mention that, there'll be a little bit of activity at the 2 ARPA bridges they're not gonna start bridge-wise until, late May is the last thing we've heard, or early June, but, the contractor has to drop some trees to avoid the Indiana bat issue on April 1st, so, they've waited right up until it, so, 4 Seasons will be in on both those bridges. Maybe a 1-lane situation just for safety purposes up on Highway 99, neither one of them should be full closure. So on Upper Flint on Highway 99, they're gonna come in and drop some trees, and they may haul some out, they may just leave them until they're in there, that's their call. So there'll be a little bit of a change of landscape and some work going on this week at those locations. And then, I'd also mention that, best hope from from Jones Contracting, the contractor that's gonna do the concrete on the Golf Course Road Hill, is they're hoping to have 5, who is their subcontractor, maybe come in the 2nd week or early in the 3rd week of April and close that up and start work on that. So, they're gonna go ahead and have their traffic control company come down and get signs put up and just bag them. So you're gonna see some activity, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think giving people a reminder, a heads up that something's coming, cause that's the kind of place where you never get everybody on the same page. There's so many people that drive through there. You're gonna catch some people off guard no matter what you do when you finally close it. And we'll do a press release and we'll get a hold of the landowners right there. But anytime you close a road that is that busy, it's an inconvenience. So something early like that catches people's attention and hopefully generates some calls, and we can give people a heads up. So things are moving along, plenty of stuff going on.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Why would you wanna cut down trees around the bridges?
They're needed because first of all, some of them are too close to be able to work safely with the crane, to do the bridge work that's needed.
Oh, so-
And some of them are needed just to do some of the ditch shaping, to reshape the ditches right there by the bridge.
So that doesn't have anything to do with the bats?
Well, you have to, the state law with Indiana bat, it's a protected species, and they apparently, their calendar doesn't start roosting in loose tree bark until April 1st. I've never asked a bat, but that's what the DNR tells me. So, you have to get any trees that comply with that rule have to be dropped, so they're no longer a viable habitat, before April 1st. Or after October something, 15th, 31st, I don't remember what the October date is, but there's a window of time through the winter that you're allowed to do it. Apparently they go hibernate somewhere else.
You wanna make sure you do your due diligence, quit being lazy and ask the bat, please.
I'm working on finding one.
Okay. Correspondence. Either of you gentlemen have?
I have.
Okay, looks like there's some here. Okay, we have from the Iowa Army Ammunition Plant, Middletown, we have approval of a Class 1 prior approval permit modification. You are receiving this correspondence as notification for recent actions pertaining to the Iowa Army Ammunition Plant located at 17571, Des Moines County Highway 79, Middletown, Iowa. The referenced installation was issued a Resource Conservation and Recovery Act permit by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency on September 28, 2018. Because you are an adjacent landowner, agency, office, elected official, concerned citizen, etc., you are listed on the IAAP's RCRA permit mailing list to receive such notification. I don't think anybody wants to hear all this. They've changed some language. probably just barely. So if there's not any sort of a public demand, we're gonna list this as correspondence. Yeah, I see your finger.
Yeah, if you don't. I just got a text from Chris. He was trying to join your WebEx, but he couldn't get on, but we have an update. They're working on the nature center. He's moved in now and should have Jeff moved in by the end of the week. They'll need a bit more time to get fully moved out of the main office. The campgrounds will be open this weekend, and they're having the fundraising banquet, this next Thursday at the barn on the ridge, to raise money for conservation departments.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we'll proceed to discussion and vote. We have a proclamation for 2024 Child Abuse Prevention. Whereas children are our nation's most vulnerable members, as well as our nation's most valuable resource, helping to shape the future of Des Moines County, Iowa, and beyond. And whereas positive childhood experiences, like loving caregivers and safe, stable, and nurturing relationships can help mitigate trauma and the negative impact of adverse childhood experiences to promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children. Whereas childhood trauma can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects throughout an individual's lifetime and impact future generations of their family. And whereas childhood trauma, including abuse and neglect, is a serious problem affecting every community in the U.S., and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas children who live in families with access to concrete economic and social supports are less likely to experience abuse and neglect. And whereas prevention is possible because of the partnerships created through families, prevention advocates, child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and local, state, and national governments. And whereas we acknowledge that in order to solve the public health issue of abuse and neglect, we must work together to change hearts and mindsets through storytelling and sharing, center the needs of families, break down bias and barriers, and inspire action from expected and unexpected partners in prevention. And whereas we are committed to advancing equitable, responsive, and effective systems that ensure all children and families are healthy and thriving. And whereas we recognize the need to prioritize kids and invest in more prevention initiatives like home visiting and family strengthening policies, economic supports, and community-based child abuse prevention programs at the national, state, and local level. Now therefore, we Des Moines County Supervisors do hereby proclaim April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in Des Moines County and urge all citizens to recognize this month by building a narrative of hope for children and families through collaboration and the creation of an ecosystem of primary prevention that does not currently exist.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Shane Campbell?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
I'd just like to throw a reminder that everybody in Des Moines County, we should be mandatory reporters. I will rat somebody out in a minute, so do not in front of my kid, do not do a kid in front of me.
We have resolution 2024-19. To set the date for a public hearing on a proposal to enter into a general obligation county purpose loan agreement and to borrow money thereunder. Whereas.
That's what I found.
They thought that was a question.
I didn't touch it.
Okay. Okay. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Des Moines County, Iowa, the county proposes to enter into a general obligation county purpose loan agreement, and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $3,570,000 pursuant to the provisions of sections 331.402, 331. Lisa, when it says 331 point, is that 331 subsection 442, or how's that? It looks like a period. Close enough. 331.402, 331.441, and 331.443 of the Code of Iowa for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of undertaking information technology improvements to county buildings, $343,375. Undertaking maintenance and repairs for county buildings, $150,000. Acquiring peace officer communications equipment, $73,000. Acquiring insurance for county operations, $2.6 million. Acquiring election systems equipment, $100,000. Acquiring and installing emergency communication systems equipment, $282,000. And equipping the county attorney's office facilities, $20,000. Collectively, the projects. And it is now necessary to fix a date of meeting of this board at which it is proposed to take action on the proposal to enter into the loan agreement and to give notice thereof as required by law. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Des Moines County, Iowa as follows. Section 1. The board shall meet on April 9th, 2024 at the Des Moines County Courthouse building at 9:15 a.m., at which time and place a hearing will be held and proceedings will be instituted and action taken to enter into the loan agreement. Section 2. The county auditor is hereby directed to give notice of the proposed action on the loan agreement, setting forth the amount and purpose thereof, the time, when, and place where the said meeting will be held by publication at least once, not less than 4 and not more than 20 days before the date of said meeting, in a legal newspaper which has a general circulation in the county.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Aye.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have a law enforcement agreement between the Des Moines County Sheriff and City of Mediapolis for fiscal year 25. I think the sheriff can probably address this.
Yeah, this is the third of our law enforcement agreements from the incorporated cities, and just a continuation of what we've been doing there. There's about a 3.5% increase to cover what our costs are and what our increases are, but we're happy to provide that service, and we have a really great relationship up there, so glad to move forward with it.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Aye.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
Wasn't this already signed earlier, or?
Yeah, it's got signed by the city, approved by the city about a month ago. And I think the wrong person signed it, they had to get it
Oh,
re-signed. And
okay.
then it got lost in translation for the last couple of weeks, but on our end, so we're getting it through now.
So it's not amended, it's just, okay.
And we have the annual fireworks display permit with J&M Displays for permit to test their fireworks throughout 2024 as part of their safety and testing program. I'm guessing the sheriff has no problem with this.
No issues. I've been through the facility, and they really are the experts on this, so.
And they're signed by Andy Kerr, the Mediapolis Fire Chief, so.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. And we have a janitorial agreement with Porter Cleaning that I suspect Mr. Bleasner can address.
Yeah, this is for the cleaning of the jail, conservation, roads, and CPC offices. So for the jail, for the annual amount is $38,340. Conservation offices, $2,892. For roads is $2,892 a year, and CPC offices, $2,892 dollars per year, for a total of $47,000.16 for the year for cleaning those 4 buildings, and that is same company we had last year, and there was 0%. They did not increase it for this year, so we would recommend for approval.
I see that the jail gets cleaned 5 times a week.
Yes.
And the conservation secondary roads and CPC are once a week, so.
Right.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you.
I move to approve.
Sarah?
Shane Campbell.
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have the aforementioned personnel action for the county attorney's office. Rob Bixler resignation, effective March 14th.
Move to approve, and be sure to tell Rob Bix that we, really appreciate everything he does for you, Lisa.
I second that motion and what you said, Jim.
Sarah?
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
Lisa, you've been pretty lucky. You had 2 real good ones that did your investigation for you. So, the next person's got a big shoes to fill on both feet.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob is definitely gonna be missed.
Yeah.
We have minutes for the regular meeting of March 19th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane Campbell.
Aye.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. There's one, as an aside, for Lisa, there's one county, at least one county in the state, that the auditor doesn't think the minutes are any business of the board, so she won't let them look at it until the meeting. She said they're her property.
They have to check mine.
All right, other business.
I have none.
Future agenda items. Committee reports.
I had a, juvenile detention meeting, and Colin went with me. He presented an IT program. Colin, you can probably explain what's going on down there better than I can, because from the IT.
So, myself and about 6 other guys, as part of our little ICIT tech team, went down and did a little IT assessment for SIAC, the main office there in Fairfield, and then the detention center down in Montrose. Went over a lot of things on like what they're spending for technology, what some of their needs are, and, you know, just kind of some overall issues that we found. I created a report for it, with notes and talking with the guys, presented that to, Carrie down there at SIAC. And we went down and talked at the detention meeting, basically about some needs that they have technology-wise and some possible funding to kind of get the ship, you know, rolling down the river there. And yeah, that was basically you know, the most of it, so. Looking over some of their technology needs there, we were, expecting, you know, some holes in the ship here and there, and the more we looked at it, we realized it's more of a raft than it was a ship. And that, there's gonna be, you know, some definite needs here to kind of get things going, to get them on the right track, so.
Explain to them about where the kids can use it.
Well, I don't know if I wanna bring that up in a public meeting, but, there's definitely some big kind of security, issues, we'll say, that, you know, technology that definitely needs to be addressed, especially the detention center, so. I'll just kind of leave it at that.
It'd be tough trying to lock up people that know more about IT than you do.
Yeah.
Outside of that, everything else is going good.
Good.
I had, Mississippi Valley Workforce, CEO meeting. We just voted on who was gonna take over a contract, with their youth. I had a landfill meeting, and basically I did ask about, why we need to have, appointments, and it was basically just because they have somebody there to make sure they can take it in and, you know, get it where it needs to go, that sort of thing, but, that was pretty much why. But also also, they're looking at some new pricing on disposing of leaves and brush. Apparently that's a problem, but we did table it. We're gonna bring it back next month. I had another meeting too, but it's just, it's escaping my small brain, so, that's it.
I attended the mental health agency in Southeast Iowa, and we approved the fiscal '25 service and budget plan, and starting to get ready to close everything down by June 30th, 2025. The region framework is gonna be replaced by regional or district administrative service organizations. And we aren't real sure what that's gonna look like yet, but I'm sure the legislatures will let us know anytime now. I attended the COBCO meeting, and it's my understanding that there's a solution to the HRA problem that we discussed 3 or 4 weeks ago, whatever it was, and I think there's been correspondence with any affected parties. If any of you or your staff is affected and they have not heard anything, have them contact the auditor's office. But it's my understanding that they came up with a solution to that, and that's all I have.
Did I say community action? No. Okay, that was my other meeting, community action. And they're finishing up the work up at the new building up in Mount Pleasant. They're naming it the Glenwood Tolson, who, I don't know if anybody's familiar with him, but he was just hugely involved with community action around this area, but they've named the building after him, which I thought was very appropriate, so that was my other meeting.
I'm just gonna make a statement about mental health.
Feel free.
I don't understand what's going on. They closed the facilities down, they formed regions, and there's all kinds of holes in this from listening to the people that's on the board about it. What's the state gonna end up doing? We've got so many people, Ken, that need
I know.
mental health, and there's
a
no
huge-
place to go.
Yeah, and, you know, they set up core services for the regions to do, to try and make the services more uniform across the state. But now that's all going away, and I just don't know what's gonna replace it. Like Tom was saying, I'm not sure what's gonna replace it. I think one of the biggest things that I haven't seen any legislation about is, mental health is not covered well by insurance companies either, you know? There's supposed to be parity where if you have a heart attack, you can go into a hospital and get treated for your heart attack. But if you have a mental health issue and you go into the hospital, not all insurance companies will treat that and pay for that. And I think it should be paid for. I think that's one of the bigger problems in mental health, but I don't see anybody addressing that, so. That's just my 2 cents worth. But we've done a lot of good in mental health through the regions. We've created crisis services, we've created jail diversion services where if somebody's picked up and taken to jail and they just have a mental health condition that's causing them to be a nuisance or whatever, we're getting them into treatment and we're making a difference, but now it's all gonna be up to districts to decide.
We don't know if that's even gonna stay there.
Yeah, districts are gonna be over behavioral health, they'll call it, and alcohol, tobacco,
Gambling. Stuff that, and maybe it's a better deal to have it all together, but you don't know exactly what it
Yeah,
looks like.
I think mental health and substance abuse go hand in hand. I think that'll be good, but I just don't know any of the details. I don't know what the services the districts are gonna be offering or anything at this point. That's all gonna be in a state plan at some point, but we don't have any of that yet, so.
Where we've done well is if they're a willing participant, there are resources there. But many of them are just not. They don't know that they need help, they don't want help, they're comfortable with the state that they're in, and it's just unhealthy for them. It's not a good quality of life. We need the inpatient care, the people that really need this intensive level of care, and that is very difficult to come by now. And there are legal questions about their rights and their ability to do these things. And that has really changed over the last 15 years as there has been less and less resources, care providers. We have seen that change as we've done emergency committals, people that need to have that level of care. Now they get released, and that bar has changed because there isn't enough beds, there isn't enough care providers to provide it. And people that used to be able to receive that care a decade ago cannot get that care anymore. They'll be there for a very short amount of time, and then they'll be released based on that they are not an immediate threat to themselves. And then they'll get kicked loose, and then we'll deal with them in the same situation where they are a threat to themselves. And I think it's just that impression of what that threat is.
I've heard Lisa address that. If you're gonna commit somebody, they have to be an immediate threat, don't they, to themselves or others? And if they ask you, are you gonna hurt anybody, and they go, no.
But they'll walk around in sub-zero weather
Yeah.
with no clothes on. And that to me is an immediate threat.
Yeah.
But again, once they're stabilized, they're no longer an immediate threat. And that is, committing someone is taking away their liberty. And so I guess I may see it a little bit different than Kevin, more from the legal perspective. We also sometimes have to remember we can't impose our value system on others who may be perfectly content with their life, and they're not a danger to themselves and they're not a danger to others. It's just a lifestyle we just cannot comprehend living due to their mental health. And so we really, it's a very, Ken, I think it's a very fine line. Because to put someone and commit them to an inpatient treatment program is not that much different than committing someone to incarceration.
That's a good
You are
point.
taking away their liberty. And so there has to be a pretty high standard for that. As far as choosing outpatient over inpatient, I agree with Kevin. I think sometimes we try to take the least restrictive means. And if we believe we can handle it on an outpatient basis, we do. Sometimes that doesn't work. But again, I think we always have to remember that you are restricting their liberty with a committal, and there needs to be a very high bar for the state to come in and tell someone they're going to be placed in a hospital for their own good. Just like a criminal case, it needs to be a high bar. Just because we may disagree with their lifestyle or not be able to envision ourselves living that lifestyle, if they're not hurting anyone or they're not hurting themselves, we have to accept that.
There's a gentleman that's homeless now. I talked to him, I was dropping off some stuff. I said, man, so aren't you tired of living like this? I said, you gotta get off these streets. He's like, tired of what? What are you talking about? He told me what to do with myself. He's perfectly fine. He's I'm perfectly fine. I got my smokes. I'm like, man, you're on the overpass, with the sign, but yeah, he's fine. He wants to be left alone. So I mean,
I can understand that level. It's when they're not taking care of their own health, when they're putting themselves at risk to elements that people can die from. We have taken people that have frostbite on their feet because, and very recently, frostbite on their feet, that they're out in sub-zero weather, that are then released, and then they're back out in that weather immediately. And that's the major concern, because we can't allow that. We can't allow them to remain in that kind of weather, but we're no longer an immediate threat to themselves, but they are an ongoing threat to themselves. And I think that there's just some interpretation with that.
The Fed's doing unhelpful financial incentive into it a few years ago as well. What's federal Medicaid and reimburse the state for their cost, 65%, something like that?
Yes, something like that.
Except, maybe it was 10 years ago or so, when they wanted to expand coverage to everybody, they expanded Medicaid. Originally, Medicaid was for women, pregnant women, children, and the disabled. So they expanded that to people that, whatever you think, would maybe be a little more able to take care of themselves. Anyway, they expanded eligibility for Medicare, and they said, we will pay you 90% of the cost of the Medicaid cost for those. Well, Medicaid dollars are limited. So you want to get reimbursed 90% or 65%? And that's that's an unintended consequence. So, yeah, there's any number of perfect storms out there. Public input. Did anybody else have a comment? Public input. If anybody from the public would like to comment or has questions, you may email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com. That's BOARD@dmcounty.com. Or you can call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. In the meantime, we'll give you a couple minutes to initiate that call or email. In the meantime, does anybody here have any comments or questions?
I have a short anecdote that might apply to the mental health thing. About 25 years ago, I got a call from the county sheriff in a county in eastern Nebraska, mentioning someone who used to live in Burlington, who had driven his brand new pickup through the front doors of Walmart in their town. And I guess my name was in the guy's wallet as a person to call. And he just wanted me to know that he was in the hospital, he wasn't in jail. And it's that kind of heads up awareness that I think everybody's talking about here. A good sheriff like you do. Because the guy wasn't on his meds.
Pretty quiet out there. How we doing? 30 seconds to fill. Times like this, we turn to Shane.
Hawkeyes won last night.
Nail biter for a while.
So there's that.
They did. I have concerns.
Yeah, I saw some pictures of Brian with his shirt off doing this. That was kind of weird, but anyways.
Hey, that's what social media is for. You can't party there, where are you gonna party?
Done.
With an eye, we're out of here.
Aye.
We're adjourned. We have a work session with the county auditor.
Did you get that final list?
And I assume the budget director on the for a budget update, and we have the tour of the 5-year construction program project.
Yes. Will you sign this too, please?
Natalie?
Yes, sir.
No, you're good.
It's the representation letter for Anderson Martin.
John, whether I had 10 hours of sleep or 5 hours. Maybe less
See you
than
next week,
always
Lori.
doing something that would make, not that you guys are boring.
Well,
Not
hope.
that you guys are boring, it's just that I do this, I'm skipping
That's,
it.
Thank
well,
you.
It's just.
where did he go? Yeah, everybody skips that, except the board. And the code of Iowa says we have to be here. And I'm
I'm
pretty sure
sorry.
these talk to the sheriff and will have us arrested if we try to leave.
Well, on the representation letter for Anderson Martin.
That's gotta be coming up soon, doesn't it?
Yeah, is Brian back there?
Okay.
No.
You ma'am are right here.
Are you cool?
You got a picture of you.
Have a good week, guys.
It's the representation letter for Anderson Martin. Sign it every year.
Is this where Emily's at now?
This is our, Mike Podleska, who's our city auditors, who are audits.
Oh, gotcha, okay. Financial.
So then,
So you
try to look upside down here. Yeah.
What did I do? When you first asked Colin your question.
Thank you.
I'll let you get it right.
I know.
That's cool.
I know, I'm
It's already
saying
there.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How we doing today?
Did you ask Colin?
Pretty good.
He says,
Yeah, he's assessing,
Okay. We have a work session with the county auditor and the budget director, a budget update.
Okay, so we found out last week by from our bonding attorney that House File 718 changed the code section on what we could bond for. So we're no longer allowed to bond for squad cars, or builds, or trucks, or Kubotas, or several other, essential things that used to be in the code that we could bond for. So Tom came over and maintenance, and we had a conference call with our bonding attorney. And we moved Descom's communication equipment, $281,000 to the bond. And we removed the 3 squad cars and the builds for the sheriff, the 2008 Chevy 2500 HD replacement for conservation, the new truck and the plow for maintenance, and the Kubota for maintenance. Those will now be taken out of general basic. So in order to make general basic whole, we moved juvenile detention $300,000 to general supplemental. So that will be paid out of that fund next year. We also moved the election equipment request from $64,900 to $100,000, and Sarah can explain that to you. And we just wanted to make it public that we were playing a shell game last week with the budget, and since we haven't published that budget, we can still make changes to it. So we just wanted to make sure everybody understood what's going on, and if you have any questions, certainly give me a shout.
The levy remains the same.
Levy has to remain the same, we sent that out, so what actually happened when we took the, if we had to take the vehicles and equipment out of the line of credit, that was about $295,000.
Yep.
So the only fund that can pay for that is general basic, so we put $295,000 extra expenses in general basic. So we need to keep the levy and everything the same, so then to compensate for that, we moved $300,000 out of general basic to general supplemental, because either of those funds can pay for clerk of court expenses, juvenile detention. And to make, so then when we added that expense to general supplemental, we added revenue, because we weren't bonding for the vehicles and the equipment for $295,000. They were gonna spend $280-some-thousand on radio emergency communications equipment that we did not realize we could bond for, because it was in a separate budget, but we can. So essentially, we moved $300,000 to $300,000 to $300,000, and everything's just about the same as it was. And really wasn't a shell game, because we've just gone through it, and we put everything where it belonged. When somebody finally came up and pointed this out, oh, by the way, all the tax implications of House File 718, you multiply your, or divide your levy times whatever the hell it is, to come up with your new general basic. Everybody was focused on that, but they removed a paragraph down below that said you can't bond for vehicles and equipment anymore, essentially.
One sentence in House File 718.
Anyway,
Took that away from us.
all's well that ends well, and so in the difference in the election equipment, I think, was something that came to Sarah's attention. She's gonna share that with us now.
Yeah, so at ISAC last year, I actually ran into it, but it's a whole different program than Precinct Atlas, and they made some changes to Precinct Atlas this last year, and it's a lot better, I think, for those who are online, but we're not online, so it was kind of a pain in some aspects. I wasn't a giant fan of it. But this new software that we would get and the new machines, instead of buying laptops, they are a tablet, and they're touchscreen, and then the printers are just one little Bluetooth printer instead of the big white ones that we have now. So we use thermal paper instead of regular paper.
Use what paper?
Thermal paper, so it's kind of like a receipt, like when you go somewhere and get a receipt at a store, it's that kind of paper.
Okay.
So it just prints out like a little receipt for them to sign and verify their information on, instead of a sheet of paper. As far as setting up and everything goes, I think it's gonna be a lot nicer, and easier for our poll workers, and that's one of my main goals. I don't want them to struggle, and I feel like these printers that we lug around as it is now, I can set them up here and everything is fine and works, and then they get into the precinct and we're all frantically running around every morning, making sure their printers are going. We're trying to guide them over the phone how to get them to sync up, because for some reason it's, when they get there, they don't work right until we resync them. So, I worked with Colin some on, he was gonna look at some other options as far as, cost went, because these are, for 55 of them, the cases and everything, it's $94,000. But when he called me yesterday to go over that, I was in the middle of trying to get the printer to work, so I was listening, but I was not listening, no. I'll be completely honest. But, I think even if we ordered all of those, we'd still have to use Precinct Atlas, and I'm not sure I still wanna do that. I've talked to other auditors that have used Tenix, and they said it works real well, they've had no issues with it. I just think it's gonna be a lot better, technology changes so much, and everything's,
efficient.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot more efficient, a lot easier for poll workers, and so, that's.
It's entirely up to, you know, whatever you guys feel comfortable with using and everything, and whatever you, feel will work easier for the poll workers, cause that's kinda my biggest concern is
Right.
making sure that's gonna work fine.
Well, and I liked how he mentioned you can literally turn on all of them, and I can program them with one instead of having to do them one by one like I do currently. So I think that'll be a huge step on our end too, with programming and getting everything prepared for election day, so.
My, really my only kind of big concerns with the tablets is kind of their longevity.
Yeah.
They probably won't last as long as if we got laptops and that. Granted, we've kind of really pushed the envelope in terms of age on ours,
Yeah.
we're on 8 years.
Yep.
You know, printer wise, I kind of looked up real quickly what the cost was, similar to the ones that they had up there, and they're about $300,
Yeah.
those Epsons. My only issue or kind of concern with those thermal printers is hooking them up Bluetooth, because Bluetooth, I mean, it works, but it's a little less unreliable. I think we should probably wire them, just to be
See,
less
and
likely to have a hassle, and it looks like those are, they do have a USB cable option, so we could wire them.
Okay, cause I asked him if they came with one, and he said no, that he's never had anyone complain about them,
Okay.
so.
Like I said, every once in a while they'd take them to precincts and you'd have multiple of the same model there and it would connect to the wrong
Yeah,
printer, which is.
if they're too close together, he was saying that, I do remember
When it's an
that.
issue, which is a common issue with Bluetooth devices, but.
But if we can
um,
just use a USB to connect them, I mean, we can try that too, if that's, and see if that works with one, and then if we have issues, use those. But hopefully that's not the case. And then I have to have the new, laptop for the absentee ballot scanning machine. And that is something that Adkins has to provide for us, it's nothing that we can get ourselves, cause they put the software and everything on it, and that's that was in the original budget already, for 4,300.
Hey, back to you said, you don't feel like it's gonna last as long, like, what's the difference in life expectancy?
Well, like with, you know, tablets and iPads and that, you know, if there's any issues with them, you basically have to replace the device. And with laptops, if hard drive goes bad, keyboard goes bad, whatever, you know, we can swap those out and be smaller cost. But just tablets in general are a lot lower end hardware and they don't last as long. You know, 4 to 5 years, probably if you're lucky. But honestly, we should be doing a 5-year rotation on this equipment anyways. We've been pushing the envelope with our laptops a lot, so. And we've been, you know, doing upgrades and what we can, tweaking those laptops to make them last, you know, here the last few years, putting in faster hard drives and stuff, so.
But these-
Adding more RAM. so.
And these are only gonna be used just for elections,
Yeah.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, all right. So I would think that we would hopefully be able to get more than the typical, you know, 4 or 5 years or whatever, just because they're not being used on a regular basis.
Well, that's the same with the other laptops too, I just think with
You don't gotta
age.
get funky about it, I was just asking a question.
Well, and
Later
like
on.
applying, not to give too much information away, but these are Apple products and, you know, they only support them for so many years in
Yeah.
terms of software updates and stuff. And that rotation for software updates on most Apple devices, whether they have a phone or whatever, it's maybe 4 to 5 years,
Mhm.
so.
expensive?
What's expensive? Sorry.
What'd you say about the application, about the?
Apps.
Software? Yeah, is that expensive to update that software, is that?
They only support their devices and push out security updates and stuff for about 4 to 5 years on most devices you buy.
And then they won't
And then you
support it
have
on
to-
that device?
Yeah, the device is too old, buy a new one, replace it, so.
Planned obsolescence.
Yeah. So as they make changes and updates, and it's for
You
every,
buy a new
you know, it's
one.
for most, all devices, you know, what you buy, whether that's a cell phone or a laptop or whatever, they're only gonna support that device for so long, and then they're just gonna tell you you have to buy a new one to be compatible with the new software, if that makes sense.
And the negative side is we only use these 2 to 3 times a year. That's it. The rest of the time they're in storage. So that's the sad part about Apple, and they're not wanting to let you
Yeah,
continue
yeah.
to use them after 4 to 5 years.
Outside of those concerns, Colin, are you comfortable with it?
Yeah, whatever, you know, whatever they wanna use, we can definitely make work. On a side note, which I think everybody already knows, I think the cost for these are pretty high, but they're filling a niche there that they know they can charge what they need to, so. But yeah, I think they'll work, and, I did kind of, stand up there for a little bit and talk to that company for a while as they kind of walk through kind of how that works and what we need to do to kind of get them set up and maintain them, so. And, so I think I know of like 3 counties right now that I've talked with, that use them, and they say they work pretty well, so.
And I know the board got concerns that this election will be a closely watched election clear across the country, that we want things to go well, we want,
Yeah.
so, I'm okay with it.
I'm fine with it, as long as, I was waiting to hear what Colin had to say, but I'm good. I do have another question for you, though.
Yes.
Okay, so they changed the bond code, so we can't bond for like SWAT cars and stuff. So what is that line of credit, I mean, how are you, for moving forward, how are you seeing
Well,
that?
to pay for that out of general fund, and long-term, I think it's
Gonna hurt.
gonna hurt the county.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Absolutely. We need
we-
to talk to our legislators, and we need to tell them what they've done. I don't think they even realized that that sentence was in there. I don't think it was their intent to take that bonding authority away from us, so we need to be talking.
Because I don't remember hearing any conversations about
No,
that.
not at any of the training about House File 718, no one's brought it up.
I think somebody or some small group wanted to do it, so they just did it, and that isn't anything they talked about.
Yeah.
And most of those guys in the legislature, there's 150 in the other one, you know, and they're all on different committees about this or that. They said, this is what it's doing, it changes this, and this, and expect somebody to give them a rundown, just sort of a summary of it, and that's so.
Yeah.
So
Talking to the legislators, I think, everyone I've talked to understands that there's some, they almost expected some unintended consequences. We're dealing with it on the secondary road funding, and I told you last week, I'm working on a committee to try to propose some solutions for that. Cheryl's not wrong. I would encourage, probably needs to come from the board directly. I would encourage you to let them know that, hey, there's an unintended consequence here. We do our business this way because it saves taxpayer dollars. And this one sentence, be very specific, that's what I've learned in this. They're not looking to revamp this, they're not looking to open this up. They want nothing to do with the full scale of what they went through last year. And they're actually, most of them I've spoken to are very supportive of what they passed. Most of them are quite, I won't say most of them, some of at least the powerful one I spoke to, actually is quite unhappy with board of supervisors because they get a lot of complaints from local people about the property taxes, and they're told to call their state legislators because that's the reason their state went up, their taxes went up. And so the quote to me was,
You're punishing the board of supervisors.
you put it in my lap, now I'm solving your problem. That was more or less the summary of how it was looked at from that one legislator. You sent them to my door, you sent them to my phone, here you go. Here's your resolution. You couldn't fix it, so here it is. So where I'm going with that is I would identify this one line, this one section, get a hold of Collins Rinker, Reichman, who I've not met yet, and
Lofgren.
Lofgren, thank you. and say, hey, this is unintended, but this is a killer. This saves, by us doing it this way, it saves our tax dollars, our constituents' tax dollars, and if at all possible, this needs struck. And I'm not saying you'll get anywhere, but that's how, from what I've seen of this, keep it very short, sweet, to the point, but definitely get a hold of them.
I can't imagine that we would be the only supervisor sending in a letter, you know what I'm saying, talking about this.
Well, the big problem is it's gonna be a lot of finger pointing, I think, especially after this letter, everybody gets this tax letter. I mean, there's gonna be unhappiness in a lot of directions. I talked to the Lucas County engineer, and he said they had a room full of mad people because of the letter that went out. And nobody understands it. So of course, if they're unhappy about anything, then we bring that confusion in. So I guess on this particular topic, I would encourage the board, but be specific to it and ask them if they could look at this as something they could do an immediate or even this year type of repair to fix an unintended consequence, and approach it that way is my suggestion. And try not to branch too far, because we all have issues with this, but we hit when we went into a conversation at the State House, we hit a very clear brick wall from at least that legislator that I was with. And it was basically made clear, don't come to me and ask me to change this, because we're not changing this. We understand that there's unintended, and we anticipate we'll have to deal with some of that.
I don't understand what the point is behind taking that, though. That doesn't even make sense to
They
me.
think you should pay for that out of your general basic fund.
I mean, I agree with Tom. I don't think if you asked most of them, they probably realized it was there. And to be honest with you, even if they realized it was there, they probably didn't understand how it was used. True. I mean, you're not talking about a bunch of people up there that understand the whole.
It isn't what they deal with. They don't deal with
No.
property taxes or.
Yeah, I mean, it's, so, so you might find friendly ears on, if you approach it that way and on that front. I mean, I can only speak for Taylor, because I've communicated with him quite a bit. He's always open to listen and generally, but he does support their change. I know that from talking to him. So, I don't know.
All right.
We good?
We're good. Thank you.
I think Cheryl Mack was
Thank
the
you.
bearer of bad news, but anyway. Say glad you
It's
came
gonna
back.
work.
Yeah.
It's gonna work for this
We
year.
love House File
not gonna-
718.
I'm not gonna say it's
That's
gonna
just-
work next year or the year after that.
Just how we look at it next year, so,
I think there's gonna be changes next year, I don't know what, and I don't know how much, but basically Lucas was saying in our meeting that they know it's a train wreck, so they're gonna see what the train wreck does this year, and then how they can adjust it next year, but I don't know what they'll,
nothing's ever solved by telling the other party how stupid they are.
yeah.
Amen to that. We never said that. They're listening. They're listening.
This
No, we never said
board
that.
hasn't been guilty of that, but there are a number of boards that I was told one in Ottumwa that ended up in a screaming match.
Not good.
No.
So,
Good things don't come from that.
well, with legislators and a board
Well, I
member
can
from another
remember.
county.
I can remember supervisors that did not get along and would scream and yell and cuss at each other, yeah. I can remember those days.
Tom said he wasn't gonna do that to me anymore.
I'm trying to cut back.
You need to work harder, Thomas.
I know.
He's not-
That's what Mr. Broker says.
You need to come in here smiling from now on.
He wasn't smiling when he came in, Jim.
Too lucky I got my coffee.
And I'm gonna buy you your own thermal cup, so that you stop needing it.
All right, does anybody know what these are?
Nag,
Yeah.
nag, just let
the
things
chalice,
up.
the-
We're,